Shalom. I am Rabbi Nathan Davidovich, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel, on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. In this short Torah lesson, I'm going to discuss one aspect of this week's Torah reading, which is Parsha Tetazvah. And in Tetazvah, it talks at the very beginning about the Menorah and about taking the oil for the Menorah. The first sentence of the Torah in this week's Parsha says, V'ato tetzaveh b'nei Yisrael, you shall command the children of Israel, v'yikchu eilecha shemon zayit, that they shall take pure olive oil, zach, pure, kotit lamor, that's crushed for the lighting, lahalot ner tamid, to be able to light the menorah. First of all, the menorah is one of the things that were above nature, that were in the tabernacle and in the Beis Hamikdash, the Holy Temple. The menorah wasn't fashioned by a human being. Moshe didn't know how to do the menorah, how to make the menorah. It had to be, it was very, very intricate design, but it had to be from one piece of gold. So God saw that Moshe wasn't able to figure out how to do this. He told him, take this piece of gold, throw it in the fire, which he did, and then out came the menorah. Now, going back a few parshas before this, when the tabernacle was inaugurated in the wilderness, in the desert, all of the tribes brought sacrifices, except the tribe of Levi, the tribe of Aaron Hakohen, Aaron the high priest. And he saw this and he thought, why wasn't my tribe allowed to? Why wasn't I permitted to bring a sacrifice? And he thought maybe it's because he didn't do enough to prevent the golden calf. And he thought therefore he wasn't worthy. So God said, no, don't worry. Your gift will be greater than theirs, because the gift of the sacrifices would only take place, would only continue during such time as the temple, the Beis Hamikdash, was in existence. When the Beis Hamikdash was no longer in existence as we have today, that commandment of bringing in offerings would not exist. But the commandment of Menorah lasts forever. The light of the Menorah lasts forever. Now, how in the world is that possible? And what, when a command is made in the Torah, as it starts in this parsha, command the children of Israel, it's supposed to be for generations. I've said many times, the Torah isn't just given for that time that it was given. It's not a bunch of stories. We have to learn something for our very life each time. Now, the wording, take for yourself olive oil crushed. Now, it seems that the word crushed, katit, is an extra word. We know that there are no extra words anywhere in the Torah. So the holy Berditchev Rebbe, the Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchev in Poland, he lived in the late 1700s, died about 1809 or thereabouts. He asked the question as to what do we learn? What message do we learn from our lives that we can apply to our lives from the message of the Menorah? And he says, it's the language that is chosen to crush the olives, in addition to making pure olive oil, is strange, because we know that the Torah does not use any extra letters. It's not repetitive, let alone an extra word. So the answer that he gives can give us guidance as to how we live our lives today. And he says as follows. He says, from the language, you shall take to yourself shemen zayit zach katid lamor, crushed for the light. Near it, he says, it appears, dehine a yetzer hara mafate la'adam le'eza tavos ros. He says, we're always challenged by our unworthy thoughts to do bad things. And these unworthy thoughts, this Yetzer Hora that brings them about, is designed to separate us from our connection of service to God. So he said, what is the remedy for this when we're thinking about things that we shouldn't be thinking about? He says the remedy of this is l'shaber et oto v'lalo kol hamachshavot. He says, break these thoughts and raise up these thoughts to serve God. And he says it's a question of logic. If we as human beings look at the pleasure we have from a materiality aspect, we have something that we really like to do, a material thing, and we'll get great pleasure from it. How long does that pleasure last? It's a momentary thing. It lasts while you're doing whatever you're doing, and maybe the afterthought of it as well. But when you do a mitzvah, the pleasure of that lasts forever. So he says what you have to do is take these material things, take the excitement that you have and the pleasure that you have of these material things, and raise them up to a higher level. The material things, the evil things that you're doing, the bad things that you're doing, if you can look at them as giving you the opportunity to do better, then that in fact becomes like a stepping stool to raise you higher. So he says to take all of these thoughts and bring them to the service of God. He says that's what the Menorah teaches us. That's why God is telling us about the crushing. The crushing is to crush and to break the thoughts that we have and to raise them higher. And not just ourselves, but the greatest good is to take this realization that what we are doing is to raise ourselves higher, but to help raise our fellow human being, our fellow Jew in a higher level. That's the greatest thing. That gives the greatest pleasure to God. And that's what he is saying. And the Kedushas Levi says that. He says, you have to raise all of the thoughts, everything, to the service of God. The menorah is referred to as the organuz, the hidden light. Why? Because when God created the world, on the first day, if you look in the Torah, it says, God said, let there be light. And there was light, but it was a light that shined from one end of the world to the other. A person could literally see from one end of the world to another. But then God realized that I don't really want this to be available to those people who are not worthy of it. So he hid the light. And that's why it's called the hidden light, the organuz. The actual light by the sun and the moon didn't happen until the fourth day. How do we access this hidden light? We access this hidden light by doing mitzvos, studying Torah, keeping Shabbat. Shabbat is the time of light, when light envelops us. And getting back to what the Kedushas Levi is saying, you access that by taking those material things that keep you from serving God, crushing them, breaking them up, and at the same time letting them serve as a footstool, so to speak, to raise yourself even higher. We as Jews have an obligation to be a light to the rest of the world, an or lagoyim. We can only shine this light to others if we first take it into ourselves, shine it on our brethren, and then by our actions raise ourselves to a higher level of serving Hashem, raise ourselves to a level of being able to access the light of the menorah, even today when we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. My blessing to all of us is that as we go into Shabbat, we shall recognize and feel the light of Shabbat that's surrounding us like a bubble, and recognize our need to spread this light, first from within us, then to everybody else. Thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. I wish everybody a wonderful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.